Okay, so I'm in danger of breaking this whole piece in half because there's flaws in it, but I'm going to go for it anyway. It looks like this side doesn't have any flaws, right? I got a turtle back there to at least give me a little bit of strength. I'm going to be shooting flakes up into this area from the base, see if I can clear away some of those cracks and stuff, and we'll see what happens. It's a small point. Why am I fussing with such a small piece? Well, because it's all I got right now. I mean, I think I could work a bigger piece. Yeah, I do have bigger pieces, but to get used to the material, my habit is to work the little pieces to death first before I tackle anything large. It'll give me some insight into how difficult this is. It grinds down really easy like a rhyolite, but the edges are wicked. When you're pressure flaking, you can create some very, very sharp edges just like rhyolite. And I'm tempted to take the glove off because I can feel it striking, and I've already repaired the finger once, so I don't want to rip it apart so soon. Anyway, if I was making a war club or something, right, I would nap it out of Onondaga first, and then I would grind it down. I think it would be easier than just to get a river cobble and try to grind it down. At least with this, I could nap it into the general shape so the grinding wouldn't take so long. Yeah, there's a strong oil odor whenever you crack it open or take off nice flakes. I think I mentioned that already, but it does seem to be a characteristic, right, of this stuff. And I think I've seen other guys mention it too. See, it doesn't really want to flake with percussion. Although from the base, in general, percussion from the base seems to be fairly or comparatively easy. I think that's why they were fluting from the base, or how that developed. They've said to themselves, you know what? It's not that difficult to run flakes from the base, so why don't we just take advantage of that and run some really nice flakes to thin out the base, and then the fluted point styles developed from that. See, I'm getting a lot. See, it wasn't very difficult for me to run those flakes from the base, but when I'm trying to do the sides, I don't know. It's just I've hit that several times, and it should already have done something. Finally did something, but it didn't go anywhere. Alright, let's see if we can... Well, that's risky. I need to get rid of those cracks first. Let's see. I was thinking of running a flake into this mass here from where that crack originates. That's risky because it'll just snap right across if it's weak there. So yeah, move the edge down. See if I can put this back together. Yeah, very few times am I able to find the flake this small. It just landed on top of my leg right here. Let's see. I'm just looking to see if it has a little spur on it. I think it does, just a little bitty one. Alright, so there's less of a chance of breakage now, I think. Now, for you that are just tuning in, why would I look at the flake? And what is a spur? That's a long story. So I won't get into it. Just know that that's what a lot of researchers are looking at. To try to figure out exactly what caused the flake to be removed. You know, a lot of researchers are hung up on the idea, or they're trying to come up with ways to say definitively this flake was made by this tool with this process. They're fighting a losing battle as far as I'm concerned. It's ridiculous to try to pursue that, other than to just come up with possibilities. I don't think it's possible to come up with any definites with how they were made, because I've said this many times, there's more than one way to make a flake, the same exact flake, with a meaningful difference in the technique. And on the other side of that, this tool is capable of making many different flakes. Okay? So on both sides of the equation, you have uncertainty. This tool makes many different flakes, and a flake can be made by different tools. At least two different tools, or two different methods that are meaningfully different. So you can narrow it down to two possibilities. I would say that would be pushing it, but still I think maybe two possibilities. There are some flakes where you say, you know, there's only a couple of ways that could have been done. Okay, I can accept that. But to know exactly how it was done, no. I mean, if you were to take this piece without this video and analyze it, I guarantee you would not know how I made these flakes, exactly how I did it. Was that a pressure flake or a percussion flake? Was it assisted with pressure before I hit, or was it no assistance at all? There's a meaningful difference between percussion and pressure that assists a percussion. So there's pressure assisted percussion, where you would load up and push really hard against the flaker and then strike it, or just barely touching the workpiece with it and then strike it. It's two different techniques entirely. I mean, it's a meaningful difference, because there's a learning curve for each one. You have to learn how to barely apply pressure, as opposed to applying a lot of pressure. There's a learning curve there. It's a different way of doing it. You have to get used to doing it in that way. Okay, so I've got it to where the cross section is pretty good, but I would like to run a flake up this ridge to thin it down. So Yeah, see what I just did there? That's all percussion, right? Can you tell the difference between that and pressure? If I had done that with pressure, like with what I call aggressive pressure? I don't think so. Now, if we can get to that point, that would be awesome. I just don't see it. I'd rather deny it, right, and then allow my critics to present information in the positive, right? Just deny it, right, and then you can bring forth positive evidence instead of making a claim and then force my critics to prove a negative, bring forth negative evidence. It's hard, it's technically impossible to bring forth negative evidence, but you can bring forth positive evidence. Like, I have a positive evidence of such and such. Okay, I will look at that. But it's hard to bring evidence of something that is not happening. Well, if it's not happening, where's the evidence of it not happening? That sort of thing. It's kind of like a dilemma. You try to prove something that is negative. It's a tactic in politics to force your opponent to prove a negative. But I want to remove politics from the discussion. So I'll deny that it's possible to know exactly how a flake was made. And if you have positive evidence that we have, that we know for sure that it was made a certain way, I will look at it, of course. All right, nice. Okay, I don't know how that went, but fortunately I caught that. So that was good. So, flake from the base to save the day. It's not as thin as I wanted, but it's getting there. Yeah. Now, there's a way around the bringing forth negative evidence for something not happening. You can just prove that it was done in another way. That's one way to get around that conundrum where, well, I can't bring evidence of something that doesn't exist, but I can bring evidence of something that is different from what you think it is another way that it may exist. That's perfectly fine. Okay, so that is sufficient for hafting. All I need to do now is sharpen the edges. And the crack didn't present a problem. Okay, and it feels kind of smooth, but the luster on this will fool you into thinking it's really easy to knap. But I can see how you can get good at knapping this stuff. It's predictable as long as it's not cracked. I would say that it's fairly good as far as predictability goes, if it's not cracked. or if it doesn't have flaws. I may switch to a stiffer pad. The roll does get annoying though, right? So I might just switch just based on its annoyingness. Yeah, not too bad. Now if you can just find a way to pressure flake this with a lot of strength, you'll be in good shape. I'm using a soft pad even with really hard material because I think it matters even with tough material. For the flakes to travel, you need a soft pad, even with lots of pressure and a very tough material. Even though it seems like nothing can stop these flakes, I was trying this earlier with this other one on a hard pad, and the flakes were stopping. Now that stopped because I was trying to take off too much, because there's a big lump in the middle there. I can try to push off on that. Let's see. Do that little trick, but the step is not tall enough. The step fracture is not bad enough. So sometimes you can take advantage of the really bad step fractures and just push off on them. To get them to complete, to continue, so to speak. And you push off on that step, and it'll continue that flake, at least partially. The only other option I have is to pressure flake from the other side, which I am going to try. Percussion might work better. I'm hesitant to use percussion because it usually crushes the edge. So I'll use pressure and try to do a very heavy pressure flake. Nice. It didn't quite catch it, but it thinned it down. It didn't quite catch the back of that, or it didn't reach it from the back. Okay. I'll quit here in a minute. one more. Oops, that one released a little bit too soon. It would have been nice if I had another one go over the top of that. Anyway, see if we can thin it down in other areas. Why don't you just glue this together, you might say. Well, I might want to use this leather for something else. If I glue it together, it might ruin it. Are you that stingy with your materials? Well, yes, I am. Actually, no, I'm not that bad, but still. If I have to, I'll glue it into a solid roll. Let me see. What am I doing wrong here? If all else fails, you can zigzag it. It's very easy to dull the edge on this stuff. So what happened there, I was trying to remove a flake, but I had dulled it by my failure to remove a flake. And every time I try again and again, it just makes it more and more dull. Which means I would have to add more and more pressure, which is the opposite of what you want to do when you're trying to thin down the tip. I mean, so that might work. Yeah, the edge is pretty sharp. There are some dull spots. I could probably refine that edge a little more. I'm not sure about Madison's, how refined they were. I think some of them were very refined and some of them were very crude. So there's a wide range, and those are the ones I like. Points that have a wide range of characteristics, but they still are the same point style. That way, I can claim that I was successful, right? There is a Madison like this somewhere in the archaeological record. Kind of thick, kind of ugly. Kind of too much picking on the edge. There's got to be one like that somewhere. There's a lot of variability. Well, there's not one made with iron. Yeah, okay. I think you win on that one. Yeah, that's good enough. All right, so Madison made from Onondaga chert. It fits pretty good in the foreshaft. So does this one, to the same depth just about, so the thickness is comparable. To get it thinner than that, I would need to start with a thinner flake probably, instead of one that's all clunky. The edges are nice and sharp, but they do get dull fast. That's the only thing about this. It is better. It is nicer to work than Rhyolite. I will give it that. And a larger piece would probably be a lot more satisfying. Trying to work a little teeny piece is kind of gives you napper's cramp. You know what I mean? But I like it. I don't know. Let's see. I don't think it has any translucency. Maybe a little bit on the edges. Okay.